Look at that. That's so cute.
Oi, puppy. I love you, but you're annoying.
Yeah, same as this fucker here. Look at that. That's so cute. I love him, but he's annoying as well. Right. Are we live? We are.
I'm guessing no one's going to be on.
I don't know. Who knows? This is going to be a terrible episode anyway.
Thanks.
No, I've just done no prep at all.
What's the difference there?
I've barely watched the race. It was all watched in delay and.
Yeah, same. Well, I watched the first one. I watched the sprint race after the main race, and then I watched the main race while very tired, having done 28 hours of being awake. So.
Oh, a nice big yawn. There we go. Right. Let's get the show on the road, shall we? Right.
There. All right.
Max Verstappen has taken the checkered flag to win. That was absolutely brilliant. No, Sergio Perez is giving it everything. Oh no, Max, that was so not right. Goes Leclerc, through goes Hamilton. Unbelievable stuff. And into each other goes Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez.
Bottas took out from Red Bull.
And at the back, that's George Russell out of this race. Daniel Ricciardo makes contact there with Kevin Magnussen, and there's a second contact.
Can't get over that.
Can't get over what?
That last bit of boom, boom. Right, I'm going to turn this off top chat onto live chat because I don't understand. Anyway, hi, Giles.
What a great start. What a great start to the podcast. Yes. Oh, hello, Jared. Yeah, in the live chat. Fantastic. We literally just said on the live stream, oh, no one's going to be on today. We haven't told him when we're on. So, yeah.
Jesus, and Lorraine's on as well. Jesus, what's on?
Obviously, people have liked and subscribed.
Actually, it's lunchtime.
And they've clicked the bell so that we know when we're live. So
even I haven't done that.
Yeah. This is like what? Why would you need to know when we're live? You're going to be on. And on the few occasions when you're not, like you're going to know when we're going live anyway. And you're probably, if you are going live, then I question why you're not on the podcast anyway.
Yeah. All right. Fine.
So this is like it's just like a podcast of the olden days where I've got a constant cat annoying me.
Yeah. Well, I've got a dog annoying me. I don't know if you can see it. Welcome to my pink house. Oh, there's my bins. Anyway.
Hey, Jenna.
Jenna is my dog who's German doodle.
Yeah. Oh.
So she's crazy, but she's dopey. Right, you go back to sleep, darling. Right, there we go. We've done the animal part of the show. Go back to sleep.
And I have Leo here. Just there we go. How cute is that? How cute is this cat?
Right. Not as cute as my dog.
He's cute and annoying. So I'm probably going to be putting him out at some point because he's annoying.
Yeah, same with my. Anyway.
Oh,
you're not allowed a day off, Carl. I don't have a day off. Days off the wimps. I'm just like, so Tom and I have been jet setting all over the world.
This was interesting. This was really quite funny, actually, but go on.
So Tom ends up going to Nice for a holiday. Mm-hmm. Then he comes back and goes to Germany. In the time did
I mention how much I love the French? I've always loved the French.
Yes, of course. And in the time he goes to Germany, I end up in a whirlwind of I think I spent 18 hours in London, which meant landing into Luton, driving, getting an Uber into Nando's in Bournemouth, going to a party, and then leaving the party at 6 a.m. in the morning to go back home and fly back home to try and watch the Qatar race, which I had a nap and managed to watch the Qatar race very half asleepish.
Whereas the Qatar race was happening while I was flying back from Germany. So I caught up with it when I got home. So I was a little bit behind. Yeah,
so I couldn't watch the sprint. And we watched the sprint qualifying while I was driving to the airport. So it was really quite confusing.
I think this is probably the first Grand Prix in, I would say, probably pushing 20 years that I haven't watched a single live session. I've watched them all delayed. I didn't watch any session live. I saw about 2 minutes of qualifying. So I think that's kept
my life working.
Oh, hello there. But the funny thing, which you didn't actually mention, was the fact that you sent me a screenshot of our Google locations, because we're sad and track each other. And you got your wife in Kerry, and then you've got you in the
London.
UK and me in Germany, and the three were just in a completely perfect parallel line. It was freaky. It was so weird to see.
It was very strange. But yeah. Anyway, I did eventually watch the races, and I sort of know what happened. So shall we do what I think happened?
Yeah, that's okay. So let's find out what happened, because this is probably going to be quite interesting, because I might have missed quite a lot as well. So I'm going to learn something.
We do the sprints first, because actually I did the sprint as well, shockingly. I noted it. Anyway, good start from Piastri on pole, but Norris fell right back, who I think was second. Mix of mediums and softs at play here. And then Liam spins off. That's a shame for Liam Lawson. He was doing quite well. Both McLarens not lighting up on the mediums and slowly sort of falling back. Then Dick Wad sends it and praises himself. If no one else is going to praise yourself, give yourself a slap on the back, because you're shit. Anyway, Lawson does what Lawson does, and safety car. Sainz really fighting Piastri. Lap 10 and the softs are going off. Piastri takes Russell, and Norris jumps Leclerc. Perez, Hulk, and Ocon all sort of try and go into one corner, and I don't think it was anyone's fault. We'll probably come back to that. No one could really see anyone. Anyway, safety car number 3. Back up and running. Verstappen gets Norris, and then Norris gets the Ferraris. So he must have gone back on Leclerc. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, someone else can explain it to me. Verstappen gets Russell, and then Norris gets the Ferraris, and then Russell. The softs did not last. Piastri, Verstappen, Norris. Felt sorry for Piastri though, having won, but got overshadowed by the World Championship, and I felt really sorry for him. I was like, "You poor lad."
I didn't.
Why?
I didn't feel sorry for him.
You wouldn't feel sorry for Piastri having one race and then having Verstappen fucking run all over him with his World Championship bollocks.
Yeah, no. Well, to be fair, like, I think Verstappen winning the World Championship got overshadowed generally by the fact that it was on a Saturday as well. Yeah. So, and nobody really cared because not a lot of people were watching. So, but again, not a lot of people have been watching.
I mean, I'd love to know the figures as to whether the sprint races are getting decent figures.
I don't think anyone's going to tune into the sprint race specifically because they want to see Max Verstappen. Oh, hello. I don't think people are going to watch a sprint race because they want to watch Max Verstappen win the World Championship, because it's been such a foregone conclusion for so long that he's going to win it. I don't think people will tune in specifically for that purpose. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see though.
But it would. But Piastri winning was very good. Very exciting. I mean,
it was somewhat of the gloss was taken away pretty much from me because I knew the top 3 before I saw the sprint, which was really annoying. So I'd known that Piastri had won, so I caught a spoiler, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I had the same thing. I knew Piastri won, but I didn't know how he won, because when I watched half of the sprint, and when I saw it, he was well back, and Norris was in 6th, and I was like, how did that even work?
Yeah, no. From where I saw it, it was very, very obvious. Obviously, I knew the whole top 3, so that was a bit annoying. But,
what do you think about the Ocon Norris? Not Ocon Norris, Ocon Perez Hulkenberg.
Oh, it totally wasn't Perez's fault, which is rare for me to say. But no, I think it was. I need to see it again properly. But yeah, it's just one of those racing incident things. I can't remember one person. I can't remember who it was. The person who came from behind, they just went in a bit too hot. I think was it Hulkenberg, wasn't it? Yeah, he just went in too hot. He didn't have a great weekend, to be honest.
Yeah,
qualified well, but sprint and race was kind of his error in the race, which I'm sure we'll get to, was pretty bad.
Yeah,
pretty unforgivable, to be honest. But just a line up in the wrong place. But yeah, and yes, I don't think really, because I'm now like a Francophile, so I have to defend the French at every opportunity now. So
I don't think it was anyone's fault. I think Hulk just jammed on the brakes, being in the middle, knowing he wasn't going anywhere, and the other two just didn't see each other and just went straight into each other and got Hulk on the way out.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's I don't think Perez can take any blame for that one.
I don't think anyone took any blame, did they? I don't think there was any points given or
just a
penalties.
Just a racing incident, I think.
Which I'm glad about.
Yeah.
Because actually that was the correct decision.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't think the stewards made any incorrect decisions.
Well,
I mean, okay. So
no, not so much in the sprint, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So should we do the GP?
Go for it.
Okay. Hulk parks it up in the wrong place due to signs not racing. The first corner and the Merc smash into each other. Completely Hamilton's fault, even though I wanted it to be Russell's. Russell at the back, but moving well. 3 pit stops. This tyre thing we need to come back to. It completely pissed me off. Tyres, 3 pit stops, mandatory tyre allowance. Anyway, my head got boiled and got pissed off with it. So because I had no idea who was really where, because you didn't know anything until the really last few laps last 10 laps as to who was actually racing who. Alonso's arse is on fire when he comes into the pit stop and wants to throw water in there. I'm like, that can't be a clever idea, throwing water. Anyway, Alonso eventually spins off and then comes back on very badly. Did he get a penalty then? Can't remember. Cygnus is coming in and Sargent signs off. There's quite a few people that ended up being sick. Was that the fastest ever pit from Piastri? I don't know.
Yes.
Was it Piastri? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes, I think so.
2 point something?
One of the McLarens, 1.8.
Yeah. 1.8. Is that the first ever in history?
Yes.
Wow. And Russell does a hand dance in 8th down the straight. Gasly told to give back position to Stroll because he took off the line. Track limits played stupid games this race. But happens to let Perez through. Gasly gains back the position from Perez. And I really didn't know where anyone was or what anyone was doing. But I suddenly found out that Verstappen was in 1, the McLarens were 2 and 3, and Russell shockingly in 4th.
Yeah. So just now, for anyone out there, I know we're not exactly the race or like checkered flag podcast or anything like that, but to anyone out there saying bring back refueling because it will add so many strategic elements to the race. No, it will not. All you will see with refueling is a race like this. Everyone will be driving on short stints and the fastest cars will just cycle to the front. All you'll see is in those mixed up races where you have a 1 or a 2 stop and it's on the edge of a 1 or a 2 stop, and then you have Max Verstappen starting in P13 and can he make a 1 stop work and all that element will go if we have mandatory 3 stop races, using all 3 tire compounds or refueling. All that will happen is those cars will just cycle to the front because they'll just adjust their stint length so that they'll just come in slightly earlier and they'll drive in free air. All they'll do is they'll just move into free air whenever they get the opportunity, show the superior pace of the car, and it will destroy the racing. So yes, when they are racing wheel to wheel, they will probably be able to get a little bit closer to the car in front because they don't have to manage the tires, and the cars will be lighter so that they'll look better while they're driving them. But the overall product will suffer massively. So to all of you people out there saying, bring back refueling, look at this as a microcosm of what will happen if we bring back refueling. So no Formula One fans, do not bring back refueling. That's my little rant done now. So,
but I couldn't work out. So what was the story? The story was that there was a curb on 12 and 13.
It was all the curbs. It was all the curbs.
They kept blaming 12 and 13 or something, or 13.
Yeah,
14.
specifically because the way it's not so much the curbs that were the problem. The drivers actually liked the curbs because they offered a physical reason to not go off track. So you didn't have to. Ironically, you shouldn't have had to police track limits with these curbs because by going off track, it means that you actually lose time. But what did they do? They policed track limits anyway, and as a result, we got a shit ton of penalties. But we can move on to that later on. So because of the speed that they were going, it was the intensity and the length of time they spent on the curbs that was the problem. I heard it described as like getting a pyramid hammer and hammering the side of a tire 1,000 times a second. That's what it's like going over these curbs because they're just getting so much punishment.
They can't be for motorcycles, are they? Is that the reason? That's the reason is because they are so solid.
But the thing is, it's fine if you're going at a reasonable speed, but going at the speed a Formula One car goes and the amount of time you spend on those curbs, it's just too dangerous for those tires. If you had a harder tire, I mean, Pirelli said that they had a tire that could have coped with these curbs, but they did not know that this was going to be a problem.
How did they not know?
Well, because it's the first time
curbs have suddenly appeared, did they? They
have got different curbs to one we were here in 2021. So,
okay, but that was 2021. We're now in 2023. They didn't appear overnight.
But we didn't have a race here in 2022. It's the first time they've used these curbs, and there's limited data.
Due diligence. This is due diligence. You can't just go in the same way. You can't just have a car and go, oh yeah, well it was fine in 2022. It's not going to work now. So,
well, all the cars,
Mercedes,
everyone on Friday loved it. And they said, "This is great. This is absolutely brilliant. This is, this is exactly what we need from curbs. We had this kind of stuff at every track. We wouldn't have to police track limits. Blah 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 blah." It's only when Pirelli started analyzing the tires and cutting them all up and looking at the structure of the tires underneath, saying, "Look, if we run these tires more than 15, 20 laps, sorry, cat's on the keyboard. If we run these tires more than 15, 20 laps, then we could start running into problems." And then when the trouble was, when they ran the sprint race to get some meaningful data, because we had 3 safety car periods in the sprint, we weren't able to get a proper gauge of what was happening with those tires. So it's a learning thing for Pirelli. And again, they had a tire that would have coped with it, but they didn't bring it because they didn't think they would need that tire. So I can understand it. And I quite like the fact that this has happened on the weekend that Pirelli have announced that they're staying with Formula One until 2027. So that made me chuckle a little bit. I think it was very pragmatic, though. I think they did the right thing for the show. The last thing we wanted would have been to see cars delaminating and crashing out of the race because of tyre failures. That's the one.
Is that really the last thing we wanted?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if it was a Red Bull, let's be honest, or one Red Bull in particular. Saying that, it wouldn't have made any difference. Perez wouldn't have won the race, would he? So it still wouldn't change the championship.
And then to put a tyre limit on, I was very confused as to why that needs to happen and to have 3 pit stops as a mandatory.
It was just because they of the limit of 18 laps per tyre set rather. So that meant tyres that they used in previous sessions that they were reusing. They could only, if they'd have done 5 laps on them in practice, they can only do 13 laps in a race on them.
This is what got confusing because there were some teams that could do 2 pit stops, wasn't there? Or some that could do 3.
Well, Max Verstappen had the least used tyres, so he had the more strategy options available to him. Not that it made any difference, because this is where the whole undercut situation just completely disappeared. Because we saw this is what we used to see in Formula One, where it's all about overcutting, especially when you've got fuel to think about as well. Because the tyres don't wear down. So what you had is Max Verstappen cruising around at a pace he's happy with. Oscar Piastri comes in because he runs out of tyre life. Then Max just hammers it until the end of his tyre stint. And then actually ends up pulling away from Piastri, when Piastri with fresher tyres, you would think, would close up. But because Verstappen had the superior tyre life available to him, he was able to just push for the whole of that stint, stop later, having pulled out, and then pull out a massive gap. So it just destroyed strategy. It's fine for like a one-off. And to be honest, if Hamilton
they should have just said, they should have just said you have to do 3 pit stops. Doesn't matter when you do it. And I suppose that's
it's about the length on the tires, isn't it? Making
because I know I think it's Owain has always said that he wanted compulsory pit stops, as in compulsory double pit stops.
As I said there, I think all that will do is it will filter the faster guys to the front, and we want to see overtaken on track. We don't want to see people just.
Well, we'd love to see overtaken on track, but we never see it because it's always missed.
But I guarantee with this race, had you not had Hamilton fuck smashing George Russell on turn 1, then you'd have seen an incredibly boring race, and everyone would be saying Formula 1's broken and Pirelli have ruined Formula 1 with these tyre rules. It's only because we had 3 cars colliding in turn 1, and then was it Alonso that took evasive action? Then Piastri just flew straight into second place from 6th on the grid. If Piastri hadn't gained 4 places at the start, Norris gained 3 places at the start, this race wouldn't have come alive. It would have been a boring race. It would have been the Mercedes probably 2 and 3, Hamilton in second place, pulling away for a few laps, then falling back into George Russell, then moaning about his tyres on the on the radio, changing, and then I just think it wouldn't have been an engaging race at all. So I think Hamilton's done everyone a favour by crashing into George Russell on turn 1, to be honest. So which we can talk about now. Are you of the same opinion that it was Hamilton's fault?
I think Hamilton was of the opinion it was Hamilton's fault. So you can't really deny that. As much as I wanted it to be Russell's fault, I really wanted it to be Russell's fault. Actually, it probably wasn't. It was quite obvious. At first I thought it was, and I think a lot of people did. They were like, think it was Russell, but actually on replays, it's quite obvious that he had nowhere to go, and Hamilton just drives straight into him, and almost does an album, of not knowing his tire width.
What Hamilton said after he'd seen it in hindsight, kind of summed it up. Really, in that he said it was a racing incident that I take full responsibility for. In that if that had happened between two drivers that weren't teammates, I don't think it would have been penalised. But the fact it didn't need to happen. So Hamilton, as the aggressor in that situation, the one making the overtake, he's the one that caused the situation to be there. George Russell couldn't have done anything to avoid that, apart from slam on the brakes. But why should he? It's just Hamilton kind of being a bit greedy with the tyre life in that opening corner. Realising, it was quite telling when he was on the way around to the grid, when he was saying, I'm going to be so exposed to these guys. I think he expected to see a lot more people start on those soft tyres. And then when he's realised he was the only one, he got a little bit desperate, I think. And I think he'll probably admit to that as well.
But he had to go for it, didn't he? He had to get ahead. He had to make the jump early before they... before they all came back up at him. He knew that from the sprint, he had basically 10 laps to get ahead. And if he didn't make up the chance in those first 10 laps, he was never going to make it.
Yeah, I think he's just showing a little bit of desperation there, to be honest. I think he saw this as an opportunity that he could have won, but then he was thrown this curveball of being on the wrong tyre effectively. But that didn't mean his race was over. He didn't have to completely risk everything in turn 1 like that. So but he sort of expected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you, I thought initially it was George Russell's fault. But then as soon as I saw the replay, I was like, no, that's not. Russell could have done nothing with that.
Yeah, I think what confused us was where Hamilton's back tyre is, and it sort of pinces into Russell's, and you're like, how did that actually get there? Unless Russell drove into him, to make that happen. So no, it was definitely Hamilton's fault. Was
eerily similar to, obviously completely different scenario, but the result was eerily similar to 2021 Silverstone in the way it was the slightest touch on the tyre, the wheel goes off and guy ends up in the gravel, and it was very. It was completely different situation, but just like the result of the contact was very similar. Only difference was there was it wasn't as high speed, obviously, because it was turn 1 from a standing start. So the result was nowhere near as bad for Hamilton, obviously. So
it wasn't bad because he'd still lost a tyre and he's still crashed out.
Yeah, but he didn't end up sideways in a barrier and then end up in the hospital. But not that that was just for precautionary checks.
Yeah.
So. But even so, he didn't like have a 56G impact or something like that. So
I don't know. I don't know much about whether I like the Qatar track. I can't quite work it out.
I'm still undecided. I'm still undecided. I'm still not entirely sure.
There's a lot of fast corners, and I suppose it is quite interesting, but I don't know if the actual track. The
track doesn't offend me at the moment, like some tracks offend me. It's still a very small sample set. We've only seen one race, and we've seen 3 sprint races on this track effectively. We've not seen a Grand Prix on this track yet with this iteration of car. So I will leave it till next year before I decide whether I like this track or not. But
we're going there for a couple of years at least, aren't we? Now?
Oh, it's a 10-year contract.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be around. All Qatar have a 10-year contract. They were originally going to build a new circuit. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But I
think they've invested so much into that circuit. It would seem silly too.
Well,
they've got lots of land and not much and loads of money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know, but I'm happy. I'm happy for Losail to be back next year. definitely, just to see what it's like again. But yeah, it was interesting. But,
And then talking about the rain's just come up there, and talking about the heat issue.
oh wow, so many comments.
Yeah. Tom's there. Hi, Tom. There's a so there was a big thing about the heat, and obviously Sargent failing to actually fuck it up for once, which was shocking. But
it's a shame. I thought he had a decent race, a decent weekend for once. I thought he was doing okay.
He spun off in the first.
I know he spun off, but I thought he looked like
in the thingy bob, and then failed to finish his sprint.
Yeah, but until that point, he looked like he was on the edge of points in the race.
Mm-hmm.
I generally think
I think it's November, Tom. It's not December.
Especially with all those penalties that we got right at the end. I think he potentially would have snuck into 10th place or maybe even 9th place. He was certainly racing there with the Alfa Romeos, so there was genuinely a chance there for him to get some points, which is a bit of a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But the heat, it's the wrong time of year to be in Qatar, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's still too hot. It's just starting to cool down this time of year, but it needs to be later in the year, which it is next year. To be fair,
in November.
I think it's in December, isn't it?
No, right. Tom just said this, November. It's the last week of November. You're right, Carl. There we go, Tom. Tom Downey has just agreed with me.
Does that not go into December? When is the Grand Prix Sunday? I'm going to have a look. Right. So we've got Abu Dhabi. Oh, yeah. Sorry, no, that's next year. I need to look at next year, don't I? Don't know. I haven't got it to hand, to be fair.
I'm going to see if I can find it.
Yeah. Okay. While you do that, yes, it has been released. Just 2024.
There we go. It is the penultimate race. Oh, you win! 1st of December is the actual race.
Yeah. So the race weekend is November.
Press buttons again.
The race weekend is November, but the Grand Prix itself is in December.
Jesus, it's quite there's a lot of driving. I'm hoping Singapore stays the same for the next 4 years.
What's that?
Because it's over my birthday, and when I hit 40, 3 years. I'm 37 now. When I hit 40, that's the race I want to go to over my birthday.
You want to go to Singapore for your 40th?
Yeah, that's the plan.
I better get an invite.
We'll all go. It'd be fun. That's the plan. That's my plan anyway, because it's always over my birthday. You never have one over your birthday, do you? Because we don't ever start.
No. Shane Becky doesn't live in Singapore anymore. We could have done what we did on my 30th and stayed in her place.
Jesus, your 30th. That was some time ago.
Yes, it definitely was. 42 now.
So yeah, I mean, it is officially in December.
Okay.
So qualifying and things. Obviously, no sprints have been released yet, so I don't know, but I probably won't be for Qatar. There is a lot of driving. There's a lot of distance they're going to be covering there, but I suppose Qatar to Abu Dhabi is not too far.
No, that's no time at all. I don't think there should be sprint races in the last 5 races of the season. Now, I know that wouldn't have made any difference in this one, but I don't want to see sprint races in the last third of the season, because I think it's too crucial for the championship at that point. I think it should be a standard Grand Prix format for the last 5 races of the season. And we don't really want to see the anticlimax of a championship being decided on a Saturday.
These sprint races, what is the gimmick? What is the plan with them?
I'm fine with them. I'm fine with 6 of them.
But why? Why have only 6? I don't get it. I don't understand as to why.
I like the varying nature of different Grand Prix weekends, different setups. I like, a couple of weekends a year. We got this Friday qualifying, and then we've got this, this separate Saturday and everything. I quite like that. I like the race weekends that the sprints produce, but it's I don't want too many of them. It's exhausting doing it every weekend. So
it is.
Yeah, I'm fine. 6 a year is fine, but I think they should spread it out evenly, but just not in the last third of the year.
And should they always be the same races or different?
No, I think different. I like that they mix it up. It should never be Monaco. Never Monaco.
That's quite pointless. That's just a parade for 19 laps or whatever it'll be, 20 laps, 25
exactly.
laps by the time you get it.
It'd be it'd be 25 laps probably, but it would just be pointless. Absolutely pointless. So
I mean, Bahrain is sort of pointless doing it because it's quite short.
Bahrain's all right. Bahrain would be a decent venue for it. And also, if we start the season there, that would be interesting. Start the season with a sprint race. I would be up for that.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
That I'd be fine with. I'll be totally fine with that. Just don't finish the race one.
Would it not turn into another basically tester session? Almost.
Well, that's the problem. There won't be any time for it because it'll all be competitive sessions. They'll come out of testing. They'll have 2 tests. They'll come out of testing. They'll have 1 practice session, and then they got to qualify for the first race of the season. Yeah, that would be brilliant. I'd be well up for that. I
think that Tom's going to start petitioning for it.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia would be grand. It's quite fast, so it'd be quite interesting. Australia would be grand. Japan would be grand. Yeah, there's not many that I'm like totally like, oh no, you can't have a sprint session there. I think
first part of the season, mostly apart from Japan, you've got Japan early next year, haven't we?
Yeah, Japan moves to the 5th to the 7th of April.
Yeah, so that's first part of the season. Generally, not a lot of
2 early morning races, one after the other. And China's early. Is China early morning? I haven't seen China.
Yeah,
3 early morning races. And then Miami. Oh no. And then Miami. Yeah, Miami's late, isn't it? Miami's a late race. It's an 8 o'clock race. 3 early ones. And
love it.
Are they back to back? No, there's a week gap between them. Thank God for that.
I love the out of hours races. It means I get the rest of the day myself.
Yeah.
Bring on the early mornings. I think every race should be 3 in the morning. Love that.
We don't really get the 3 in the morning ones.
No, not anymore. Used to, not so much anymore. A couple of races I stayed up for back when I actually went out.
Yeah, and then Las Vegas will be interesting.
Yeah. Cool. But anyway, we haven't spoken about McLaren yet. McLaren effectively got 4 podiums this weekend. Why are we not talking about it? Piastri won a race. And then a second place.
Well, do you know what? Like, what's happened to McLaren? How have they suddenly become so good? And I think I have the answer.
Go for it.
I think it's because they have 2 similar type of drivers. Mm-hmm. So they have made one car that suits both drivers, as opposed to Red Bull, which has made one car for one driver and one car for someone else.
No one else.
There's no one else. And they can't drive it. And I think it's the same for a lot of the teams, is that Ferrari have the problem where they try and pander to both drivers and fail on both of them. So I think what's happened is the new upgrades have come via both those drivers. At the beginning of the season, obviously Piastri didn't have much say on the car that he was driving. Mm-hmm. And since the upgrades come in, he's obviously having a say along with Norris, and they're very similar in driving styles. So that's why it works quite well.
I think they definitely are reaping the benefits of just cutting their losses early on. The car that they started the season with, they hadn't touched for about 3 or 4 months because they were just bringing this whole new concept to the car. It was an absolute baseline that they could build on top of. So that car was terrible at the start of the year, but then the updates that they brought to it has just leapt it forward in competitiveness, which is awesome. And it's good to see that Piastri is getting to grips with it as well. I still think that he's probably being elevated a bit high at the moment. And yes, he's won the sprint, but his time management still, and his race management in general, still leaves a lot to be desired. This race was always going to benefit him because it was short stints. Mm-hmm. And that's going to fall into his wheelhouse 100%. Qualifying and sprint races, I think he's going to outdo Lando over the course of the season, certainly next year anyway. But this year, again, you saw it in the Grand Prix. If Norris hadn't have had the issues that he had, he had the issues. So that's his fault because he put the tyres in the wrong place. So, but if he hadn't have done that, he would have beaten Piastri in both sessions, I think. And his race management as well. You saw how fast he got up to the back of Piastri. And then I think he played the company line as well, which I quite like the way they said, okay, we're going to hold station. And he's just like, why would we do that? Not questioning it. He's just and then say, oh, but I've got more pace. I can show you my pace. If you want to see my pace, I'll show you my pace. He was quite cheeky with it. And I quite like that because he wasn't being egotistical, and
he wasn't being a dick.
Yeah, he was like, of course he wants to overtake his teammate. Of course he does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's been going quicker in the entire
race.
race.
It didn't make any sense for him not to show his pace and get up to the back of Piastri instead of holding position, because there was no advantage to sitting back and waiting for Russell to cover up his ass.
They say, we're a little bit worried about Russell catching up. It's like, yes, so then let me use my pace. I'll pull away from him.
Yeah.
Again, quite funny. But I think he said after, whether he was just pulling the company line or not, he said after the race, I couldn't pass him anyway. The dirty air was too much. I'm not buying that for a second. He had so much pace in hand. He was passing everyone else like they weren't even there. So no, I'm not buying that. I think he was just playing the company line there, which is great to see. It's not all about him.
Yeah.
But Oscar's phenomenal. Like, he is. It's easy to forget it's his rookie year. What other rookies have we got in Formula One this year? Nick De Vries, what happened to him? You know, Lawson's showing some decent signs, but nothing anywhere near the level of Piastri, and Sargent.
Yeah, but then he didn't come in the right time and hasn't had the years. Remember how Piastri was at the beginning of the season to go up against
better than
Piastri.
This.
Better than Piastri?
So,
better than Lawson.
Better than Lawson, I would say. He was still. It was good what he was doing at the start of the season, but it was very understated. It wasn't as obvious what he was doing. I mean, you look at, he retired from the first race, 15th, 8th, 11th, 19th, 10th. So he was kind of hovering around the points, 13th, 11th, 16th. And then when they brought in when he got the new car for Silverstone, he was straight in there, 4th, 5th, 9th. So, you know, he's and then 3rd and 2nd, a couple of podiums now. So he's definitely, he is 100% one for the future there. He's ahead of Lance Stroll in the championship now, which, you know, not difficult. He's well clear of him. He's actually, I mean, I don't think he's going to catch George Russell, but he's closing on George Russell at a real rate of knots. Yeah.
Do you don't think he's going to catch him? Do you think there's going to be much change? Do you think that McLaren will jump Aston Martin?
Yeah, 100%. Now, I can't see McLaren. I mean, this is touching wood. I can't see McLaren not passing Aston Martin.
Were you just touching your willy or your ass?
Wood. 11 points in 5 races. It's like, and even if Aston Martin had the same car as McLaren, they're only doing it with one car.
Yeah.
So no, I can't see McLaren not passing Aston Martin now, which is amazing. That's
Talking about, I mean, sorry, there is only one dick of the day.
Really? There's quite a few, I think.
No, there's only one dick.
Okay.
And that is Stroll.
Who's our dick of the day?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
because that was dick moves of many. Yeah, it was just dickish moves of multiple things, not racing dicks. Who else was a dick, really? I was asking Laura as to who was a dick, and she couldn't work anything out. And the only one we came up with was Stroll. No one was actually a dick.
Yeah, I mean, you could say like performance-related dicketry. You could say, but actually,
there wasn't a performance.
Being a twat. Yeah.
Sorry, being a twat. Hamilton was a twat for driving into Russell, but actually wasn't a twat about it. Do you know what I mean?
Because
like,
fair play to Hamilton. When he makes mistakes like that, he does admit to it. Yeah. He did the same thing with Piastri when he collided with him in Monza. So he does admit to it when he makes a mistake.
That's not, in my world, that's not being a dick. And I can't blame the stewards for once, because actually they
incident as well. It's a racing
maybe
incident.
The track and Pirelli tyres, but it wasn't a dick move. They weren't deliberately trying to be dicks.
They dealt with it. Like,
if they'd have done it was a plan.
If they'd have done what they did not Pirelli, but what Michelin did in 2005, where it was just the teams posturing with each other for performance reasons. In the end, we ended up with a 6-car grid. Then 100%, they'd be dick of the day.
Or even when, like in Azerbaijan, when all the tires started popping, you know, they should have realised that and controlled that earlier. But actually, no, there was a plan, and it's like, the only person I can think of is a dick, and that's GBH or ABH or whatever the actual, ABH, I think. ABH. Like,
it's certainly workplace harassment.
Yeah. Like, it just needs to, that should not be tolerated at all.
No.
In any form of workplace. That should also, I mean, okay, the possible thoughts are, and I am not condoning this, that he was being goaded by his performance manager, whatever.
No, he wasn't. He was telling him he's got to go to the weighbridge.
No, right. Is that
He was
what
telling him.
Is that what the finger was?
Yeah, he was saying you need to go this way to the weighbridge. He's like pointing to say this is where you need to go, and then he was like saying no. He goes, no, you need to do it or we'll get fined, basically. And he just pushed him out of the way. But it's fine, we're bros.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I saw a comment for that, and I was like, well, I didn't understand it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a bro or not. Like, like, there's been times when between us mates we would have push and shoves and things, but we're mates and it's life, as opposed to
it's not in a workplace in front of a global audience.
Not in front of a million audience, in our younger years. And I've had with my best
I have to say though, the memes have been fantastic that have come out of this though. My favorite was you've got quite a few going around that are very similar, but it's for any musical fans out there, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda singing pasted over the top of the Aston Martin garage, and then he goes, look at my son, pride is not the word I'm looking for. It's just brilliant. And I've seen a few other ones like that of just like people like cats falling off shelves and stuff. It's just this is Lance Stroll.
Like, I don't know how you can condone anything like that, and I don't know how you have your moments, and if you went and Hulk smashed a door, do you know what I mean? I can understand that. Hulk smashing desks and things, it's not great, but they're inanimate objects, but to push someone physically, no, he's and I'm sure a few people have said it. If that happened in my workplace, I would be gone.
Be sacked on the spot.
And I have my workplace is very volatile, as it's full of macho men and things, and I've seen them
macho man.
And then there's a bunch of camp lads like me, but it's like how if things happen, you do get fucking elbowed off or moved away. You don't stay in your same position and your same role, and it doesn't matter who you are. And we've seen this on multiple things, in life at the moment, is that you get cancelled quite quickly. But for some reason in Formula One, if you get angry after a race, you're not getting cancelled.
Apparently the FIA are investigating it. It's come out today, or yesterday.
But why are the guards? The police, and why is this not being?
I think because the trainer wouldn't have put in a complaint. So if there's no complaint, there's nothing to answer for, is there?
Is that? I don't know.
I guess it depends on the laws of the country as well. And I don't know. Let's not getting too involved in that. We can just judge him from afar for being.
But he is our dick of the day, surely.
Yeah, 100%. But I would say runner-up on that, quite a distant runner-up, but runner-up on that would be the guy who, at some point in the season, made us believe that there may have been a title fight, and that's Sergio Perez. 80 seconds behind Verstappen after penalties were applied. His engineer was having a go at him. I just say, can you please stop going off track? You're fucking up our race. What the hell? I know the sprint wasn't his fault, but he was still out of position in the sprint anyway. The race, he was down the back again. And early in the race, Russell passed Perez. And I was thinking, that's going to be interesting. That means Russell and Perez are going to be both pushing up together towards the podium. Russell finishes fourth. Where did Perez finish? A distant 10th, 80 seconds off. Over a minute behind George Russell, who'd overtaken him, 50 laps earlier. Over a second a lap slower than a Mercedes in a Red Bull. Let's just think about that for a second. It's not acceptable. And the Red Bull team are actually now finally starting to actually say stuff like this. Like Christian Horner mentioned that Red Bull no longer have a team like Mercedes and McLaren do. They don't have two drivers that can compete for wins. So that tells me they're already lining up his replacement. He will start the season next year in a Red Bull, but he will be on thin ice, my pedigree chum.
Do you think he will? Do you think he's? I mean, you're
He won't see
guaranteed. You're guaranteed not to wear.
Yeah.
Sorry, George is guaranteed to wear the sombre.
Yeah, absolutely. George will be wearing the sombrero on Grid Talk, and I will be fully safe and fully clothed. And I'm going to make another bet right now. Here we go. Just moving my microphone. If Sergio Perez finishes the season in a Red Bull next year, then I will podcast on Monkeyseat completely Starkus. Obviously, the camera will be
No
above.
one wants to see that.
No underwear. I'm going to be completely in a nud. That's it. That's a Monkeyseat one. That's the difference between Grid Talk and Monkeyseat. I go the full hog. It's a full Monty. If Perez finishes the season next year in a Red Bull.
Okay.
Or rather, let me just rephrase it. If he does the entire season in a Red Bull. I'll just
If he does the
qualify that.
entire season.
Because it may well.
What
Because there may
happens
be.
if he smashes himself and
Injury doesn't count. Injury doesn't count.
Okay.
He will be replaced at some point in the season. It may well be that he's replaced by someone who does terrible, so they bring him back. But he will be dropped from Red Bull at some point next season. That is my bet. Okay. And
am I going to be naked if this fails? Because
no, it depends. No, this is just a bet that I'm making. You don't have to tag along to it. This is just something that I'm making.
Because that would suggest that I would be supporting Perez to stay in this race.
But also, one thing that's kind of gone by a little bit, when I made this bet about Perez and not winning a race again this season, at the time I actually said Sergio Perez will never win another Formula One race, and I still stand by that.
Yeah,
that's what I said at the time, because I think he's not going to finish the year next year. He's not going to win a race in a Red Bull next year, and then he's picking up scraps in midfield teams after that.
Mm-hmm.
So you may well get a weird situation like a Monza or something where there's a big crash and he ends up in the lead and wins a race or something like that. Yeah. That might happen, but on pace, he's definitely not going to win another race because I can't see him being in a car that's capable of winning a race.
Yeah, or
him beating his teammate.
Yeah.
So nice little Perez rant there. Let's see what happens next. So now that add Mexico to the list of countries I'm not allowed to go.
You sound like the Top Gear trio or the Grand Tour trio. There's another country you can't go to.
I've never seen it. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
never watched it. Well, what have you got coming up? It's Austin this weekend, isn't it? And
is it this weekend?
Next weekend, sorry, not this
that's
weekend.
Right, yeah.
Next weekend. Then it's Mexico, Sao Paulo, Las Vegas, and Abu Dhabi. So just 5 races left. Finally, we can see the end.
You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
It is.
Do you know what that's from? What's that from? You don't know what that's from?
It's a musical, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a shit musical.
No. It's an Andrew Lloyd Webber one. I'll give you that hint.
Yeah, so it's a shit one then.
It's the best of the Andrew Lloyd Webbers.
I do know it. It's Cats, isn't it?
Starlight Express.
Oh, I don't really know. I've never seen it.
Express.
I've never seen it. I was supposed to see it when I was at school, but I couldn't go.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's a musical on roller skates.
Little Mermaid. That could be on roller skates. Right. So the championship. Sergio Perez, 224 points to Hamilton's 194. I don't know how that's going to pan out. I don't think Hamilton's going to catch him. It's 5 races, but Perez has still got the best car, so I still think Perez is going to hold on to that. Alonso 183, Sainz 30 points behind, and then Leclerc 145. Norris now on 136, Russell on 132, and then Piastri back there on 83. And I said about the Constructors' Championship, I think McLaren are going to do it. I think McLaren are going to get back up there into 4th place. The rest of it is pretty set in stone, to be honest. Mercedes Ferrari is interesting, 326 to 298. That's still open, but I can't see. I think Mercedes will have enough to see off Ferrari there. Alpine is stuck where they are. The only other interesting one really is between Alfa Romeo and Haas, given that we haven't spoken about the Alfa Romeos, but they picked up a decent haul of points this weekend. A 9th and an 8th puts them clear of Haas in the Constructors' Championship. So there we go. We spoke about Alfa Romeo. There we go.
Oh, shock. I forgot about them.
Yeah, everyone does. They all do.
They're even forgotten about themselves, haven't they, really?
We haven't said our driver of the day, though. So should we do driver of the day?
Go on.
I think.
Are we not getting a sing song? Okay, fine.
Oh, well, we can do it.
Just waiting for the sing song.
There we go. As it's my lovely lady wife's birthday today. There you go.
Happy birthday, lady wife.
Happy birthday, Emily.
There we go.
There we go.
That comes with his other wife on the podcast.
Yes. I think it's going to sound really biased, but Lewis, no. I think Lando Norris, because his race pace was just so phenomenal. Piastri did great. Verstappen managed to pace perfectly. Russell did well to come back. Yeah. I'd say Russell will be the honourable mention for second for me, but no, I think Norris is starting P10 and then being up in P3. Any other car in front of him, he finishes P2 in that race. If he starts up the front like he should have done, which was his fault because qualifying, then I think he actually has a chance of winning that race. He certainly drives Verstappen a lot closer.
Okay. Do you know who my driver of the day is?
Go for it.
George Russell.
Fucking hell.
You can. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Did well on both the sprint and the race, and it wasn't his fault. Tires went off for the sprint. In the race, he came from the very back, raced through, did some actually good overtakes. Yes, he is a dick at the same time, but actually it was a very strong drive for him. And as much as I hate the fecking lads, if someone does a good job, they do a good job. And that's one of those things. I know I've confused everyone, but I just think he did a very good job this weekend of actual driving. And that's what we're going with driver of the day on.
Yeah, he certainly didn't make any mistakes. And he drove through well on a car.
In my opinion, Norris did make a mistake because he had a shit start in the sprint race and went back. He wasn't
driver of the day, though. We're looking at the Grand Prix here. But
are we? Sorry, where are we only looking at
or are we? I don't know. We make the rules up. So, yeah. Yeah, he did get a bad he did get a bad start in the sprint.
Well, I think of the day it was because of the sprint. So,
Yeah, no, to be fair, he did make a bad start in the sprint. So that's the one that and his qualifying performance was bad as well.
Yeah. So and that's why I don't think it is Norris. Piastri, yes, did very well. And I think I if you said Piastri, I'd have more understood than Norris. But I think as an actual drive and the drive that he took, Russell did it better this weekend.
You are right. I was looking purely at the race. I wasn't taking into account the sprint in that. If you're taking the sprint into account, then I probably would reassess there, and I probably agree with you and say Russell. It'd be difficult to not say Max Verstappen, but equally again
But the Max Verstappen thing is he drove well, and he drove well, but constantly well, and he was in the right position at the right time, and he got fun, and he didn't do that well because he came second in the sprint. So. To say that he was good this weekend, he actually wasn't. He didn't do as well as he could have. And okay, he did well in the Grand Prix. No one's denying that. But that was because he had the fastest, the fastest car in the fastest position. So I just think that actually Russell was sensibly the driver of the day.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'll agree with you on that one then. But
and it's the only time I'll ever say it. So don't.
The important thing
he's still a dick.
The important thing is that we both agree that Lance Stroll's the dick of the day.
Yeah.
So on that,
Lance Stroll's the dick of the day. But
on that note, I think we shall bring this podcast to a close. Thank you for all the comments in the.
Did you notice Tom's invited us to his 30th in Las Vegas next year?
I haven't seen that. There's so many comments in. I haven't had a chance to see it, but
somehow we have 10 people watching. Who are these 10 people?
Wow, a whole 10 people. Awesome.
Maybe these middle of the day ones are better than.
Yeah, come on. Who are all these people that don't have jobs? Yeah. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Anyway, really appreciate your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell. So then you can all join us at lunchtime.
You sound like a really shit YouTuber. Like and subscribe.
I look like a really shit YouTuber as well. You see my hair? I'm such a mess. Right.
Santa Claus has had a haircut.
Right. I should be at work, so I'm going to go back to work now.
Yeah, I should be at work. I should be doing work. I've got to go and pick up my son.
Sorry.
I talk about your godson and then you just fucking shit
I'm
all
sorry.
over me.
I'm
Fuck
sorry.
My life. Right, piss off. Back to work.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't find my Killian. Where's my sign? There he is.
Night night. Love you.
That's old. That's
His
so
son
old.
doesn't sound like that. Ah, Jesus.
Now he like calls you out. He calls you Carl and calls you
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Of course we
hilarious.
can't. Yeah.
I love your kid.
Carl Law.